May 9, 1944, 11:47 a.m. 300 miles northwest of Madeira Island, Atlantic Ocean, Oberleutnant Klaus Hartmann pulls himself through the conning tower hatch of U-515 and freezes. The Atlantic stretches empty in every direction. Gray water, gray sky, nothing but horizon. Exactly what he needs. His diesel engines cough to life below, sucking in precious air. The crew is preparing to scuttle, to surrender, to end a patrol that should never have gone this wrong. But then someone behind him whispers, "Captain." The horizon. Hartmann raises his binoculars. His hands start shaking, because the horizon isn't empty anymore. There are masts, dozens of them, appearing like a forest growing from the sea. Destroyers, American destroyers, not in 30 minutes like the doctrine promised, not in an hour. 8 minutes. He lowers the binoculars slowly, looks at his watch officer. Neither man speaks, because they both understand what they're seeing. The hunt is over, and they were never the hunters. They were always the prey. 19 hours earlier, U-515 was the predator. She's a Type 1C U-boat, 120-ton surfaced, 252 feet of welded steel built in the Deutsche Werft shipyards in Hamburg. Captain Lieutenant Werner Henke commanded her through 16 patrols, sinking 26 Allied ships totaling 164,000 tons. She's a wolf of the Atlantic, and her crew of 54 men are among the Kriegsmarine's elite. But Werner Henke is gone now, transferred stateside after his last patrol. The new commander is Oberleutnant Klaus Hartmann, 31 years old, a former watch officer promoted into a captain's chair he never wanted. This is his first patrol in command, his first time alone in the hunting grounds. It's May 8, 1944. U-515 is running submerged at 60 meters, 30 nautical miles north of Madeira, when the sonar operator, Matrosengefighter Otto Fricke, hears the sound every submariner dreads. Ping, ping, ping. Not the passive listening of hydrophones, active sonar. Someone above them isn't just listening, they're searching. "Captain, active sonar bearing 095, range closing." Fricke's voice is controlled, professional, but his knuckles are white on the headset. Hartmann moves to the conning tower ladder, listening. The pinging echoes through the hull, a metallic heartbeat that makes your teeth ache. It's not a destroyer. Destroyers ping slower, deeper. This is higher pitched, faster. "Destroyer Escort," the executive officer, Lieutenant zur See Friedrich Wahler, says quietly. American, probably. They're all over these waters now. Hartmann nods. Destroyer escorts, the Americans call them DEs, are smaller than fleet destroyers, but they're everywhere. The Allies are building them faster than U-boats can sink them, and they're purpose-built for one mission, killing submarines. "Silent running," Hartmann orders. "All ahead dead slow. Rig for depth charges. Nobody moves. Nobody breathes loud. We drift away." The crew executes. Instantly, men freeze at their stations. The electric motors throttle down to a whisper. U-515 glides through the black water like a ghost. Every man aboard listening to the pinging grow louder, closer. Then it stops. The silence is worse, because silence means the hunter has a firing solution. "Wasserbomben!" someone screams, depth charges, and the world explodes. The first charge detonates 30 meters above them. The pressure wave hits like a sledgehammer swung by God. Light bulbs shatter. Cork insulation rains from the overhead. Men are thrown against bulkheads. The hull groans, a metallic shriek that sounds like the submarine is screaming. Hartmann grabs a valve wheel to stay upright. "Damage report." The charges come in patterns, crack, 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 4 at a time, methodically walking across their position. The DE above has good sonar, very good. Each salvo is closer than the last. The aft torpedo room reports a cracked seal. The forward battery compartment reports chlorine gas leaking from damaged cells, seawater mixing with battery acid, creating poisonous fumes. "Get me a damage assessment on the pressure hull." Hartmann snaps at Wahler. "Can we go deeper?" "Deeper." Wahler stares at him. "Captain, we're already at crush depth for..." Another salvo. This one is close enough that paint flakes off the interior bulkheads. A pipe ruptures, spraying hydraulic fluid across the control room. The depth gauge needle spins downward. 80 meters, 90 meters. They're sinking. "Blow forward tanks. Level us out." The chief engineer, Obermaschinistenmat Dieter Vogel, yanks the compressed air valves. Air screams into the ballast tanks with a roar that can be heard for miles. It's loud, it's desperate, and it tells the destroyer Escort above exactly where they are. The next pattern of depth charges lands directly overhead. The explosions are simultaneous, a single catastrophic boom that lifts the entire submarine and slams her back down. Men fly through the air. The conning tower hatch springs a leak, seawater spraying in under pressure. The main electrical board shorts out in a shower of sparks. Emergency lighting kicks in, dim red bulbs that make everything look like a scene from hell. Hartmann can taste blood. His vision is blurred. Someone is screaming in the aft compartment, high-pitched, continuous, the sound of a man whose mind is broken. The diving planes aren't responding. The rudder is jammed hard to starboard. "Capitan!" Vogel's face is ghost white. "We have flooding in the engine room. Seals are blown on the port shaft. I can't stop it. We have to surface." Hartmann closes his eyes, tries to think. But there's nothing to think about. The mathematics are simple. They're flooding, they can't maneuver, and the batteries are dying. They can surface and surrender, or they can stay down here and drown in a steel coffin. "Surface," he says quietly. "Emergency blow. Bring her up." The order ripples through the boat. Men stare at him, some with relief, some with something that looks like betrayal. Surfacing during a depth charge attack is suicide. The DE will machine gun them as they come up, but staying down is certain death. Vogel pulls every blow valve simultaneously. Compressed air roars into every ballast tank. U-515 rockets toward the surface, nose up at a 30-degree angle. Men slide backward, grabbing anything bolted down. The depth gauge unwinds. 70 meters, 50 meters, 30. They breach like a wounded whale, the bow shooting 15 feet into the air before crashing back. Water cascades off the deck. The conning tower hatch flies open, and Hartmann scrambles up the ladder, expecting to see the destroyer Escort bearing down on them, expecting the thump, thump, thump of deck guns. But the DE is 2 miles away, turning hard to port, moving away from them. "They lost us in the blow," Waller breathes, climbing up beside him. "They think we went deep." For 5 seconds, Hartmann allows himself to believe it. 5 seconds where he thinks they might actually get away. They can start the diesels, charge the batteries, limp back to Lorient. 5 seconds of hope. Then he sees the aircraft. It's a Grumman TBF Avenger, a torpedo bomber launched from an escort carrier, flying at 800 feet. The pilot spots U-515 immediately. She's dead in the water, trailing oil, her deck awash, crew scrambling topside. An easy kill. The Avenger banks into an attack run. "Flagger, aircraft!" the lookout screams. "Bearing 030, attacking." Hartmann's mind races. They can't dive. The boat is too damaged. The seals are blown. They can't run. The diesels are offline. All they have is the 37mm anti-aircraft gun on the Winter Garden platform behind the conning tower, and it takes 90 seconds to man and load. They have about 12 seconds before the Avenger releases. "Get that gun crewed now," Hartmann roars. "Fire the moment you can." 4 men sprint aft, boots slipping on the wet deck. The Avenger grows larger, its engine roar building. You can see the pilot's face now, see the bomb bay opening. The 37mm crew swings the gun around, traversing frantically. They fire. 3 rounds. The recoil shakes the whole platform. Tracers arc across the sky. Too low, too slow. The Avenger doesn't flinch. It releases. The depth charge tumbles from the bomb bay, a black cylinder spinning through the air. It hits the water 60 feet from the port beam. Sinks. You have maybe 3 seconds to brace. The underwater detonation lifts U-515 bodily out of the water. The shockwave ruptures the outer hull plating. The conning tower rings like a bell. Hartmann is thrown against the periscope housing, something in his shoulder tearing. Men on deck are tossed into the sea like dolls. When the geyser collapses, U-515 is listing 15 degrees to port, more flooding. The aft deck is underwater now. She's dying fast. The Avenger circles back for another pass. But Hartmann isn't watching the plane anymore. He's watching the horizon. Because the destroyer Escort that was 2 miles away, it's coming back, hard, throwing a bone in her teeth, black smoke pouring from her stack. And she's not alone. There's another DE behind her, and another, 4, 5, 6. Mein Gott, Waller whispers. Where are they all coming from? Hartmann doesn't answer, because he doesn't know. U-boat doctrine, honed over 4 years of Atlantic warfare, states that it takes Allied task forces a minimum of 30 minutes to converge on a surfaced U-boat. 30 minutes is enough time to repair damage, recharge batteries, maybe slip away. It's the margin that makes surfacing survivable. But these ships appeared in under 10 minutes, and they're still coming. The radio operator, Funkmaschinist Hans Becker, climbs topside, headset around his neck. Capitan, I'm picking up encrypted signals, multiple ships coordinating. It's like they knew exactly where we were before we even surfaced. Hartmann's blood goes cold. Before we surfaced? Jawohl. The transmissions started during the depth charge attack. They were talking to each other, sharing our position in real time. That's impossible. Radio direction finding, HFDF, Huff Duff the British call it, can locate a U-boat's radio transmissions. But U-515 hasn't transmitted in 3 days. And even if they had, triangulation takes time. Coordination takes time. Unless the technology has changed. Unless the Allies have something new. Hartmann looks at the converging destroyers, at the Avengers circling overhead, at his crew, some still pulling men from the water, some standing on the canting deck staring at the approaching warships with the blank expressions of men who've accepted death. We can't fight, Waller says quietly. We have one gun and a sinking boat. They'll tear us apart. I know. We could scuttle. Deny them the boat. Hartmann shakes his head. We scuttle, and they'll strafe the survivors in the water. I've seen the reports. The Americans take prisoners. Usually. The lead destroyer is close now, maybe 3,000 yards. Her bow wave is massive. Her forward gun mount is trained on U-515, waiting. One wrong move and she'll open fire at point-blank range. Hartmann reaches for the flag locker, pulls out the white sheet they keep for this moment. Every U-boat carries one. Every captain prays he never has to use it. He ties it to a signal halyard, hoists it up the periscope shears. The white flag snaps in the Atlantic wind. The universal signal, we surrender. The destroyer doesn't slow, doesn't acknowledge, just keeps coming. And behind her, 7 more warships fill the horizon. The destroyer that reaches them first is the USS Chatelaine, a Buckley-class destroyer escort displacing 1,400 tons. Her skipper, Lieutenant Commander Dudley Knox, brings her alongside at 15 knots, close enough that Hartmann can see individual sailors on her deck. Close. Enough to read the hull number, DE-149. She's brand new. You can still smell the paint. Knox doesn't ram them, doesn't fire. He circles U-515 like a shark inspecting wounded prey, keeping his forward 3-inch gun trained on the conning tower. Over a loudspeaker, in accented but clear German, a voice booms across the water. U-boat commander, you will abandon your vessel immediately. You have 3 minutes to comply. Any attempt to scuttle will result in fire. Acknowledge with signal lamp. Hartmann's signalman, Obermatros Werner Schmidt, looks at him. Hartmann nods. Schmidt flashes the acknowledgement. Verstanden, understood. 3 minutes, not enough time to properly scuttle a U-boat. The seacocks take 5 minutes to open fully, and you need to blow the ballast tanks to make her sink faster. The Americans know this. They're not giving them a choice. All hands abandon ship, Hartmann says into the voice tube. His voice echoes through every compartment. This is not a drill. Bring classified materials topside for destruction. Life vests on. Move. The crew flows up through the hatches like ants from a flooded nest. They're carrying code books, cipher machines, operation orders, everything wrapped in weighted canvas bags. They throw them overboard and watch them sink into the gray Atlantic. The Enigma machine goes over the side, the grid charts, the recognition signals, everything that could help the enemy. Hartmann does a final count, 54 men, 51 still alive, 3 dead in the engine room from the depth charges, crushed when a bulkhead collapsed. Their bodies are still down there. There's no time to bring them up. The crew begins sliding into the water, life vests keeping them afloat in the cold Atlantic swell. Some are injured, broken bones, burns, shrapnel wounds. They help each other, forming a ragged cluster of gray-green uniforms and orange life jackets. Hartmann is the last man aboard. He stands on the conning tower, one hand on the periscope shears, looking at his submarine. U-515. She served Germany for 3 years, sank 26 ships, brought her crew home 16 times. She won't bring them home again. He slides down the tower, hits the water. The cold takes his breath away. Even in May, the Atlantic is merciless. He swims toward the cluster of his crew, counting heads again. Still 51. The USS Shetland launches boats, whaleboats with armed sailors rowing toward them. The Germans don't resist, don't fight. They just float there, waiting, watching the destroyer circle their dying submarine. But Hartmann isn't watching Shetland anymore. He's watching the horizon, because the other destroyers are arriving now. Pillsbury, Pope, Flaherty, each one massive compared to the tiny U-boat, each one bristling with weapons, depth charge racks, hedgehog mortars, guns, and they keep coming. How many is that? Waller treads water beside him, his face pale from blood loss. He has a deep gash across his forehead from the depth charges. Hartmann counts silently. 8, no, 9, Scheisse, 10. 10 destroyers, for one U-boat. Lieutenant Becker, the radio operator, spits seawater. Capitan, this isn't normal. This is coordinated. They were waiting for us. They couldn't have been waiting. We haven't transmitted, we haven't. Then how? Becker's voice rises, panic creeping in. How did 10 destroyers appear in 8 minutes? How did they know exactly where we were? Hartmann doesn't have an answer, but he's starting to understand. The Avenger that found them so quickly. The destroyer that was searching exactly where they were running, silent. The radio transmissions Becker picked up during the depth charge attack, ships coordinating, sharing position data in real time. The Allies have something new, some kind of network, and U-515 just surfaced in the middle of it. The Americans haul them aboard the Shetland. Sailors with rifles keep them covered, but they're not hostile. Someone brings blankets, someone else brings coffee. Actual coffee, not the ersatz garbage they've been drinking for months. A pharmacist's mate tends to Waller's head wound. Lieutenant Commander Knox appears on deck. He's maybe 40 years old, graying at the temples, eyes that have seen combat. He looks at Hartmann, soaking wet, exhausted, defeated, and extends a hand. Your English good? Hartmann shakes the hand. Good enough. Your boat? U-515. I'm Oberleutnant Klaus Hartmann, commanding. Knox nods slowly, studies him. You put up a hell of a fight. My sonar operator said you went to 95 meters. That took guts. It took desperation. A thin smile. Yeah, I've been there. Knox gestures to the horizon, where the other destroyers are now circling the area, dropping depth charges on phantom contacts. You picked a bad spot to surface, Lieutenant. This whole sector is covered by Task Group 22.3. USS Guadalcanal's hunter-killer group, escort carrier with 8 destroyer escorts. We've been working this area for 2 weeks. Hartmann's stomach sinks. Escort carrier? Yep. With radar, HF-DF radio direction finding, and air patrols running 24 hours a day. The minute you surfaced, the Avenger spotted you and radioed your position. We were already spread out in a search pattern, so we just collapsed the net. Knox snaps his fingers. 8 minutes from contact to capture. New record for our group. Hartmann stares at him. You have a system for this. We have a system for everything, Lieutenant. Knox's smile fades. The Atlantic isn't yours anymore. It belongs to us now. They keep the German crew on deck, 51 men sitting under guard, wrapped in Navy-issue blankets, watching their submarine die. U-515 is low in the water now, only her conning tower still visible. The list has increased to 30 degrees. She won't last much longer. Hartmann sits with his back against the deckhouse, Waller beside him. Around them, the crew is silent. Some are crying. Some are staring at nothing. Otto Fricke, the sonar operator, has his face in his hands. 3 years, Fricke whispers. 3 years we hunted in these waters, sank 26 ships, and they found us in 8 minutes. No one responds. Because what is there to say? A young American sailor, can't be more than 19, brings them more coffee. He's nervous, keeps his rifle slung over his shoulder, but doesn't point it at them. You guys, you need anything else? Hartmann looks up at him, studies the kid's face. Farm boy, probably. Midwest accent, joined the Navy to see the world and ended up hunting submarines in the Atlantic. How many U-boats has your group sunk? Hartmann asks in English. The kid blinks. I don't think I should. 5? Hartmann presses. 10? The kid shifts uncomfortably. 4, including you guys, in 2 weeks. 4 U-boats in 2 weeks. Hartmann does the math. At that rate, Task Group 22.3 alone could destroy 40 U-boats in 5 months. And this is just one task group. How many others are out there? How many escort carriers with their own hunter-killer groups, each with radar and direction finders and aircraft? You're just a kid, Waller says to the American sailor. His English is rougher than Hartmann's, but understandable. You know what you're doing? You're ending the war right here, right now. The kid doesn't know how to respond to that. He just nods awkwardly and walks away. On the horizon, another destroyer, the USS Pillsbury, breaks formation and speeds toward U-515's sinking hulk. Hartmann watches, curious. What are they doing? The answer comes when a boarding party, 8 men in life jackets armed with submachine guns, launches in a whaleboat and rows toward the U-boat. They're going to board her, try to capture her before she sinks. Scheisse, Waller breathes. They want the code books. But the code books are already at the bottom of the Atlantic. Hartmann made sure of that. What they'll find aboard U-515 is a flooding wreck with dead men in the engine room and nothing of intelligence value. The boarding party climbs aboard the tilting deck, disappears into the conning tower hatch. You can see flashlights moving inside, beams sweeping through the dark interior. They're in there for maybe 5 minutes. Then they scramble back out, rowing frantically for Pillsbury. They make it about 200 yards when U-515 gives up. The bow dips under, the stern rises, propeller blades glinting in the afternoon sun. For a moment she hangs there, vertical, like a gravestone, and then she slides beneath the surface with barely a ripple. Gone. 3 years of patrols, 26 kills, Werner Henke's legendary command, glug, 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 and she's at the bottom of the Atlantic. The German crew watches in silence. Some of the younger men are openly weeping now. Hartmann feels nothing. He's gone numb, hollow. The last 48 hours have drained something fundamental from him, and he's not sure it's ever coming back. Lieutenant Commander Knox appears again, crouches down beside Hartmann. We're taking you to Casablanca. From there, you'll be processed and sent to POW camps in the States, probably Texas or Arizona, somewhere inland. Hartmann nods, doesn't look at him. Knox hesitates, then, for what it's worth, you did everything right. Went silent, went deep, tried to evade. You just ran into something you couldn't have known was there. Bad luck. Bad luck, Hartmann repeats. The words taste like ash. Yes, bad luck. Knox stands, starts to walk away, then pauses. One more thing. You said you haven't transmitted in 3 days, right? Correct. Then how did we find you in the first place? Before the depth charges, before you surfaced? How did Chatelain know where to search? Hartmann looks up sharply. I was going to ask you the same question. Knox's expression is unreadable. Our HFDF picked up a transmission, short burst, encrypted, came from your position at 0340 this morning. That's what brought us here. That's impossible. We didn't transmit. Somebody did, from your boat, on your frequency. The two men stare at each other. Hartmann's mind races. Could someone have used the radio without his knowledge? Could there be a saboteur aboard? But that's insane. These men are Kriegsmarine, vetted and trusted, unless one of them was turned. A spy. Feeding the Allies' positions, or unless the Allies have equipment that can intercept even passive signals, radar reflections, engine noise, something the Germans don't know about yet. I need to speak with my crew, Hartmann says slowly. Knox shakes his head. You're prisoners now. You don't get to speak with your crew about operational security. Whatever happened, it's over. He walks away, leaves Hartmann sitting there, mind churning. Around him, his 51 men sit in blankets, defeated, watching the horizon where their submarine vanished, and beyond that horizon, invisible but present, is the USS Guadalcanal and her air wing, and beyond her, dozens more escort carriers, hundreds more destroyers, a steel net spread across the entire Atlantic. Fricka leans close, whispers, Capitaine, are we the last? The last what? The last U-boat crew, the last wolf pack, are we? Is it over? Hartmann doesn't answer immediately. He thinks about the 10 destroyers that appeared in 8 minutes, the Avenger that found them in open ocean, the HFDF that supposedly detected a transmission they never sent, the coordinated, systematic efficiency of it all. "No," he finally says, "we're not the last. There are still boats out there, still crews." But for how long? Hartmann looks at the young sonar operator. Fricka is 23 years old, joined the U-boat service in 1942 when being a submariner meant you were part of an elite force that controlled the Atlantic, when tonnage war was something Germany was winning. That war is over. Fricka just doesn't know it yet. "Not long," Hartmann says quietly. "Not long at all." The USS Shetland secures U-515 survivors below decks, not in a brig, but in a cleared berthing compartment with bunks and a head. It's cramped, but it's dry and warm. Guards are posted at the door, but they are not aggressive. One of them is the farm kid from earlier. He brings them sandwiches, white bread, real meat, cheese that doesn't taste like sawdust. The Germans eat in silence. Some cry while chewing. It's the first decent food they've had in 6 weeks. Hartmann can't eat. He sits on a bunk, staring at the overhead, listening to the destroyer's engines thrum. They're making 15 knots, heading south-southwest. Casablanca is 3 days away. 3 days of sitting in this room, replaying every decision, wondering what he could have done differently. The answer, he's starting to realize, is nothing. There was no winning move. The game itself had changed, and no one told them the new rules. Waller sits beside him, head bandaged by the American pharmacist's mate. "I've been thinking about what that lieutenant commander said, about the transmission we supposedly sent." "I've been thinking about it too. Could it have been automatic? A beacon? Something the Tommies installed on boats they captured?" Hartmann shakes his head. "We inspect U-515 before every patrol, thoroughly. There's no device. Then someone transmitted, someone on our crew." The words hang in the air. Mutiny, betrayal. It seems impossible. These men have been together for years. They've survived depth charges and storms in the endless gray hell of Atlantic patrols. You don't do that with a traitor in your midst. But Hartmann remembers something. A detail that nagged at him during the attack. When they surfaced, after the depth charges stopped, there was a 10-second window. Just 10 seconds, when they were on the surface but before the Avenger spotted them. 10 seconds of radio silence. Except Becker had been in the radio room. Doing what? Checking equipment or sending one last burst transmission before abandoning ship? No. That's paranoia talking. Becker is Kriegsmarine. Loyal. Isn't he? Hartmann pushes the thought away. It doesn't matter now. They're prisoners. The war, for them, is over. 6 days later, in a POW processing facility outside Casablanca, Hartmann is debriefed by American naval intelligence. The officer, a commander with thinning hair and tired eyes, asks questions for 3 hours. Position reports, patrol routes, tactical doctrine. Hartmann gives name, rank, and serial number. Nothing else. The commander doesn't push, doesn't threaten, just makes notes and moves to the next question. At the end, he leans back in his chair. "You know what the interesting thing is, Lieutenant? We've processed 4 U-boat crews in the last month, all of them captured by escort carrier groups, all of them surprised by how fast we showed up." He taps his pencil on the desk. "You guys still think you're hunting? Convoys. You're not. We're hunting you, and we're very good at it." Hartmann says nothing. The commander closes his folder. "You'll be shipped to the States next week, Camp Ruston in Louisiana, probably. It's not bad. Work detail on farms, 3 meals a day. You'll survive the war." "And then what?" The commander shrugs. "Then you go home, if there's still a home to go to." Hartmann is dismissed, sent back to the holding area where his crew waits. They're being kept together, all 51 survivors in one barracks. It's an act of mercy, he thinks, letting them stay together through this. That night, lying on a cot staring at the ceiling, Waller whispers from the next bunk. "Capitan, what do you think happened to the other boats, the ones still out there?" Hartmann knows what happened, because he knows the Allies didn't just get lucky with U-515. This was systematic, technological. The escort carriers, the HFDF, the radar, the aircraft, it's a machine designed to kill U-boats, and it's working. By the end of 1944, Germany will lose 241 U-boats, not to convoys, not to warships in surface battles, to hunter-killer groups, to aircraft, to technology that turns the hunters into prey. The wolf packs, the terror of the Atlantic in 1942, will be reduced to scattered stragglers. The ace commanders will die or be captured. The tonnage war that Admiral Dönitz promised would starve Britain into submission will become a massacre of German submariners. The survival rate will drop below 30%, then 20%, then 10%. I think, Hartmann says quietly, they're learning what we learned, that the Atlantic belongs to them now, not us. Silence. Then Fricke's voice from across the barracks. So we lost? We lost. More silence. Someone is crying softly. Someone else is praying, Vater unser, der du bist im Himmel. Hartmann closes his eyes, tries to sleep, but all he can see is the horizon filling with masts, 10 destroyers in 8 minutes, an impossible number that became reality. Somewhere out there, another U-boat is surfacing. Another crew is expecting 30 minutes to repair and run. Another captain is about to learn that the rules have changed, and the Allied net is waiting. In May 1944, the USS Guadalcanal and her Task Group 22.3 would sink 6 U-boats in 2 months. U-515, U-68, U-544, U-66, U-801, and U-515, captured intact, the only U-boat boarded and captured during the war. The escort carrier tactic, combined with HFDF technology and coordinated destroyer screens, would prove devastatingly effective. U-boat losses in 1944 would reach catastrophic levels. Of the 156 U-boats commissioned during the war, 783 would be lost, a loss rate of 67%. Approximately 28,000 of the 40,000 men who served in the U-boat service would die. Klaus Hartmann would survive the war as a POW in Louisiana. He would return to Germany in 1946 to find his hometown bombed to rubble. He never commanded another ship. In interviews decades later, he would describe May 9, 1944, the day 10 destroyers appeared in 8 minutes, as the day he knew Germany had lost the Battle of the Atlantic. He was right. The era of the lone wolf U-boat, the terror of the convoy lanes, the steel sharks of the Kriegsmarine. It ended not with a battle, but with a surfacing, with a crew watching the horizon fill with masts and understanding in one terrible moment that the hunt was over, and they were never going home.